Welcome back to the Primal Reset podcast. Today, we're joined by Leilani Kopp. She is the founder of Sweet Leilani Cosmetics and has spent years helping people feel confident in their skin. Her work blends clean beauty with real healing, and her story is just as powerful as her mission. Leilani, it's a pleasure to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Love being here. Thanks so much.
So, tell me a little bit about your story, about what got you into building a cosmetics brand.
Yeah, wow. I never set out to have a company. My background's in film and TV. I do makeup and hair, but I was one of few in Canada that specialized in paramedical corrective makeup. And when I was in film, I started volunteering styling wigs in a bedroom because I was doing wigs for stunt doubles. So that came easily to me. While I was styling cancer patients' wigs, they wanted help with makeup, and I had kit loads of makeup from film. But it was filled with fillers and chemicals and gunk. And, I just thought there's got to be something better. I always said my first two mistakes were how hard could it be to create a product and how hard could it be to take it to market? It was very hard, but I'm alive in the market today because fast forward, I was a bit ahead of the curve in what clean, non-toxic beauty would be to the everyday woman today.
And so we hear a lot of information about, phthalates and parabens and all these chemicals that are in all the fragrances and skincare and sunscreen and everything that we use almost every single day. What got your attention of the chemicals that were in that?
Well, our skin is the largest organ, and we use anywhere from 12 to 20 toxic products a day between our body care, hair care, face care, you name it. I always use the analogy of a celiac. Like a celiac can't have gluten. They can't eat anything that has gluten in it. But people don't realize that they can't use anything topically that has gluten either. Some of them just get severely ill, or others, it can be life threatening. And when I was working on cancer patients, it was the same thing. They were undergoing all these major treatments, radiation, chemotherapy, and the products they were using were aggravating even more the side effects that they were having from their treatments. So it sort of sent me on a journey down a rabbit hole, quite honestly. And it took me a lot to figure everything out. It took me a few years, but I got on it. And as the years went on, I started learning more and more about the foods we're eating and that it's about our inner and outer well-being. We worry about our diets and what we're eating and, how much fruit and vegetables, but we forget that we're getting sick from these toxins and we need to start paying attention to what we're putting on our bodies.
Absolutely. They go hand in hand. Kind of, we talk about inflammation and we talk about, parabens and people, whether they know it or not, are chemicals in some sort of sense that is within our food. And we go, well, if we can fix everything internally, it'll fix everything externally. We'll start to look better. And that's true. Absolutely. But at the same time, like you mentioned, we use 20 or so products a day, depending on the person, obviously. With what we're putting on our skin. When you go in the shower, what water is going on your skin? What we don't realize is our skin is a sponge. It's I like to call it strawberries. It's kind of equivalent to that. Every time strawberries has pores everywhere. And I always try to share with people, our skin are like strawberries. We have pores everywhere. We're a sponge. We soak everything in. So the water that we put on our bodies for showers or when you go in the ocean, anything of that aspect, the soap that you're using for your face, for your hair, for your body, and then the 10-step routines that everyone has for the morning
Yeah.
and for the evening. And then on top of that, for women, makeup, and it just kind of piles up where we don't realize, hey, I eat healthy, so my skin should be clear. But what we're not realizing is it's also what we put on our skin.
No, absolutely. When I was working in film, we were bombarded with superficial standards. Nobody, it was all about beauty, glamour. Nobody talked about health or skin conditions. Um, and, it goes beyond that. Like, it's affecting people. Aren't realizing that sometimes they're getting sick and they're having autoimmune deficiencies and different conditions like that. It's because of the toxins. It's not necessarily they go to the doctor and the test after test and nothing's showing, but it's actually the products they're using. Our teens that are going through puberty, it's affecting their hormones, which means it's affecting their menstrual cycles and their breast tissues. You've got young women, it's affecting their reproductive systems. You have the more mature women that these hormones are wreaking havoc during menopause. And if you want to take it one step further, when you said, you're in the shower and you're using all these products and they're washing off, well, that's all going down the drain into our marine life. And now it's in our food chain because we're eating that marine life. So it's just such a big topic that can blow wide open, once you get into it.
Absolutely. You can definitely create that rabbit hole effect where it's not just one thing. It trickles into 45 different things, and we could
Mm-hmm.
talk about it forever. A question I had though, I know you're with your products, you're vegan. Is that correct?
Yes.
What's the difference? Share with me what vegan really means within a skincare product, and what's the difference between what we've seen in the past and vegan ones.
Right. So there's three. People tend to get cruelty-free, vegan, and gluten-free mixed up. Gluten-free is that there's absolutely no gluten in it, so a celiac could use that product. Vegan, it means that there's no animal byproducts that are used in the formulations, whereas cruelty free is no animals have been harmed. And just because you're cruelty free doesn't mean you're vegan. And just because you're vegan doesn't mean you're cruelty free. And to blow that topic up even more is that some of the bigger companies walk a fine line because where they're sourcing their raw ingredients is where they're harming the animals. But because they don't harm the animal in the lab where the formula is mixed and stirred and created, they can say they're cruelty free. It's tough out there because these big brands are walking a fine line, and consumers are, I mean, I know consumers are very savvy, but we're fooled because we think that if it's sustainable, it's clean. If it's clean, it's vegan. If it's vegan, it's sustainable, and it just is not. It's just not that case. And that's where I have built this brand over the years, and we can check off all those boxes right down the supplier chain. That means fair trade, that means ethical. They're sending little children into the mines to source mica. That's your powder in your foundations. The gluten is animal bones, minced up. And so uh, companies need to be more transparent, and we need to educate consumers about the whole puzzle.
Absolutely, I agree with that. I don't want to call them loopholes, but the fine lines that companies walk when
Mm-hmm.
saying certain things, we could talk about organic and natural. Those words might sound very pretty, but the guidelines in order to call something those are not quite what the average consumer
Yeah.
thinks of.
No, I know.
Funnily enough, I was watching, and this is kind of the off topic, but I was watching Landman, and it's, oil fields and it's an oil company. And, at one point they're walking through a wind field, so a wind turbine field. And we all look at this nowadays and we're like, wind is so much more sustainable. It's so much cleaner than oil and gas, right? Because oil and gas is what's creating the pollution and it's
Right.
what's harming our stratosphere and everything. But when we really look at it, how do we create those wind turbines? How do we create the roads in order to get the wind turbines there? What machines do we use to actually set up the wind turbines? And if you think about it, we all use cars every single day, and there needs to be some sort of lubrication or oil to keep those brakes from scratching your tires
Right.
and from your rotors. And there's all this lubrication needed as well, just as much for the wind turbine. So what we don't realize is wind might be a more clean energy, but in the reality of it is oil is in absolutely everything. And it doesn't stop at wind turbine. It doesn't stop at the more clean, efficient energies. It's in our lip gloss. It's in, our phone cases. It's in our desks. It's in everything that we use every single day, whether we realize it or not. Every plastic that we
Mm-hmm.
use, oil's in it. So to get away from it is definitely a difficult thing. That's kind of why I truly enjoy the vegan, cruelty-free, gluten-free, almost primal, almost ancestral ingredients within a product, because that's what we were raised, that's where we were born on this earth
Right.
to consume and use. And why don't we use what Mother Nature gives us, right?
Yeah. No. And interesting. It's when you just use that analogy. I myself wouldn't even follow that pattern back to the beginning, and so your friend might not follow cosmetics back to the beginning that his sister's using. So it's about being on platforms like this and educating and talking and awareness. So it goes into all of our, you know,
Absolutely. The awareness portion I've seen with all the wellness leaders that I've spoken with is definitely something that's on the rise,
yeah.
which I think is phenomenal, and we definitely need more of that, and less of the more generic information,
Mhm.
less of the more being hidden in the dark. And we don't need to know every single aspect, but we need to understand why one thing says one thing and the other says another. We need
Exactly.
to understand that difference. All right, I'm reading through a couple of questions that I've got. This is a good one. So, the question for you: we're seeing kind of a shift with makeup and aesthetics, kind of as a therapy almost, if you will. How do you see cosmetics and makeup and skincare kind of playing a role with emotional healing and feeling better in our skin today?
Right. Well, makeup isn't meant to be a cover up. It over the years it seems to be that's what it's become, as a cover up, and it shouldn't. You know, we all have a bad hair day, and we we're not doing our best when we have a bad hair day.
That's why I'm wearing a hat today.
Yeah, but okay, so you imagine how you feel, and you've got beautiful skin and beautiful hair, and it's just that one day you're off. Whereas I'm dealing with people who have been severely burned, scarred, or undergoing cancer, have had some kind of tragedy, and they're not using it as a cover up. They're using it so that they can go out and face life again and not have everybody staring at them and just feel like everybody else. So there's a lot to talking about how it acts as a healing aid or an overall well-being just for us all. It's tough getting through life today, and if we can feel and look our best, hey, good.
Absolutely. I agree with that. The A lot of people like to think it's self-image, and I would say it's self-image, and agree to your point, it's self-image to yourself.
Yeah.
It's can I wake up every day, look in the mirror, and be happy with what I see? And I think if we're able to give a natural and an organic process to creating that for them, I think that's where the stars align. I think that's
Yes.
when we can start to make an impact in today's society as well. A question actually that I have, knowing you're in Canada, you're in Vancouver area, what's the biggest difference that you see skincare wise with the colder, drier weather as opposed to a more humid tropical weather such as Florida?
Well, we're more, yeah, like in Canada. I'm in Vancouver, so we get more rain. We rust, but back east gets all the cold weather, and Alberta. But so our skincare has to be like really potent, higher percentages of, say, a hyaluronic acid that's going to quench, nourish, and feed the skin. I think that our skincare, you know what? I think that they're sort of parallel, because in the hot weather you still need the nourishment and the hydration for other reasons with the warm weather versus the cold weather. But I'm always about skincare first. And I think that's why when I created this plant based skincare infused complexion line, it was because of that. I always felt that skincare came first and the makeup was just, secondary. So I think everybody needs to pay attention to their skincare first. And that's another thing, is that they'll go to the doctor and they get all these topical creams for acne or different skin conditions. And a lot of times, not all the time, but it's the makeup, or, it's just something that's not working for them. But right away, they just think they're allergic to it, but it's really just the toxins.
Absolutely. What we all put in our skin, and almost like when you realize, there's pimples, there's acne, there's some sort of problem that we have with our skin, our first reaction is, what did I do wrong? And we kind of forget on the what are we doing every single day that hasn't been good for us.
Exactly.
I would definitely agree with that. To that point, with them kind of running parallel with each other, obviously with hot weather, even if it's humid outside, you still need some moisture within your skin. The air is not going to quite do it. In a more drier weather like Vancouver, you still need the moisture because it's drier air. What would be the first step that someone could take, kind of understanding what product to start with or where their skin should be?
Well, I mean, you don't have to go and throw out your whole makeup bag right away. I always say, let's do it one product at a time. So start with your cleanser. And again, it can be so simple. Here I am, I created this brand, and you'll never see me with a lipstick in my purse. Like, I'm not one of those that loves to, apply 10 times a day kind of thing, or have 9 products at night to take it off. So like our foaming cleanser would be a body wash, face wash, makeup remover, and a shampoo. So you want to find something that really works, that has clean ingredients. Read the labels, ask the questions, start with a really good cleanser, and then start with a really good moisturizer and build from there. And maybe when you're out of your mascara, get rid of it, go look for a clean mascara. When you're out of the lipstick, like, just slowly swap it out so that a couple months down the road, everything is clean. And especially, I know, when I speak to some people, say someone who's a health advocate, or is on a wellness journey, and you'll hear all about what they're doing and what they're eating and what they've taken out of their diet and what they've but yet they're still shopping at Sephora. So it sometimes blows my mind, because it comes back to, like we're talking about, is that we need more educating about what's going on out there in the world.
Yeah, yeah, we could repeat that every single day. But I love the first step. Kind of, I always try to tell people, start with the first step.
Yeah, don't
There's no
overcomplicate
need
it.
to, exactly. Let's simplify the whole process. Let's start with the first thing, see how we react to it. We start to see results within a couple days, weeks, stick to it. If you see a negative result in that couple days, weeks, however long it's going to take, maybe change it up. Maybe
Right.
find, a different product, or and like you said, always try to look at the ingredients. We might not know what we're looking for. So I would advise everyone, look for brands like Sweet Leilani Cosmetics. They have clean ingredients. Base it off of that. If there's a product in there that they happen not to have, look at their ingredients for every other product that you have from them, and then kind of base whatever product you're looking for with the same similar-ish ingredients. It's not always going to be the same, but try to find the most clean, the most organic, most natural ingredients out of everything.
Exactly.
I think this is the last question that I'm going to ask before we go into the business section. Where do you think future of clean cosmetics is heading?
It's definitely on the rise. I think that consumers, like I said, they're becoming more savvy, and they are learning, and they're starting to demand it. It definitely is on the rise. Generation Z is a lot of them will not purchase anything that is not clean and sustainable. So that's good. I know that up here in Vancouver, we have a lot of filming going on, and we were available on a lot of in the trailers, because even actors are demanding better beauty products. So definitely on the rise for sure. And I think down the road, even maybe 5 more years down the road, it's going to be something that we just have to have. Like, it's just like having packaging on the product. It is going to have to be clean.
And what would you say if we were to look at today's cosmetic brands, the big ones, and figure out what makes them a brand? Like, why do people buy this particular product from this particular company? Do we think that we're going to see staples of natural, organic, or do we think they're going to get bought out by the bigger brands, and they claim to fame as still the natural and the organic and the vegan and the cruelty-free, but it's just their product and they can add whatever else they want within it as well? What do you think we'll see? Do you think we'll see kind of almost an independent brand that will be a staple, that is natural, that takes care of their clients and their skincare and keeps the natural and organic aspect to it? Or do you think everyone will end up getting bought out?
Probably bought out. I say that because if it was that easy, why aren't the big brands doing it? It's not that easy. It's more expensive. You have to do smaller batches. It doesn't stay on the shelves as long. So that's why big brands don't do it. So I think a lot of them will buy smaller brands. Will they keep it as clean? I'm not so sure. All we can do is hope. But I don't see a lot of the bigger brands. I mean, they should have been turning something into it by now anyways. Yeah, no. I don't think that it'll be anytime soon.
Okay. Yeah, it's always a question I like to ask because we see so many, especially food wise, we see like Poppy, for example, getting acquired recently. And now I'm not entirely certain what was in their ingredients beforehand or what is in there currently that's different. But getting acquired by such a big corporation, like by the people they got acquired by,
Right.
you're kind of uncertain whether the ingredients are going to change. Is it going to be the same product,
Yeah.
or do we need to create another Poppy? Do we need to create another natural brand and rise that demand again until almost it's a selling point?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, unless they're buying up that indie brand and keeping their owner or formulator of that brand, it's going to change at some point. So,
Absolutely. And
you know,
and I would also say the supply of it as well. I mean, because if smaller brands are using smaller distributors and smaller ingredients,
yeah,
essentially, to do that on a mass scale where we can ship it to 190 countries is going to be an astronomically harder
exactly.
challenge
Yeah.
than mass producing. Absolutely, I agree with you on that one. Going back to this and kind of and switching up this conversation more into the business side of things, the two mistakes that you would realize when starting Leilani Cosmetics. What was the most significant challenge? How were you able to overcome?
It was sink or swim by that point because I was too far in. Um, and I knew that I needed to do this. I had husbands hugging me crying because their wives would go back out in public kind of thing. So I think that's what kept me going. And when I first started going around to dermatologists and plastic surgeons, some of them, I remember one time being told it's just makeup, they need to get on with their lives. And yet I was the one in the trenches working with these people that humbled me every day, and I knew, no, like, no, I need to keep going. So I think that was the biggest part. The hardest part, as any entrepreneur, is money. I've bootstrapped this, but it's always a struggle. I had no business background, so the whole balancing the books, that kind of a thing. So, had to take a few classes. But yeah, no, I certainly struggled in the beginning because I was naive and not having a clue, just thinking, well, I can just start a company. But if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it, right?
Absolutely. It's definitely not the easiest to start your own company. We all think we can set our own hours, and you soon realize that you have to be everyone in
Yeah.
one, and
And you're probably working more hours than they.
you're waking up, working, and going to sleep. That's basically your entire day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what marketing strategy did you use that has been particularly effective within the cosmetic industry in building your brand?
Staying in my lane. I had people tell me that, oh, cardstock packaging. Like I remember I was one of probably, the top five that had cardstock packaging when I first came out with it. And they said it'll never fly because everything was about glamour, right? And blah, blah, blah. But I stuck true to why I started the business. I mean, maybe if I hadn't had if I didn't specialize in corrective makeup, I don't know if I had this beauty brand and it would be glitz and glamour and I'd be in Sephora. I don't know because I'm a makeup artist, so I'm more creative. But I was doing it for a purpose, and so I needed to stick to what my purpose was, and just stay in my own lane. And when I saw other brands maybe surpassing me or whatever, because maybe I was ahead of the time in what clean was, but I stayed true to why I was doing what I was doing, and that certainly paid off.
Absolutely. And I would agree with that 100%. And it definitely has paid off for yourself as well as for your brand. And I think if we all have a purpose behind of what we're doing, if we all have the idea of I want to bring a product or I want to bring a service to people to help them in whatever way it is, money will always follow outside of that.
Right.
But if we focus on the money, that's where we start to not really service the clients. And that's where the clients might still buy and the customers might still buy, but we're not really helping anything in that
No,
aspect. We're just another brand at that point. So I
exactly.
love the purpose that you have in your life and behind your brand. And you still have that purpose and you're still succeeding in it, which is awesome.
Thank you.
And I know that it'll only get bigger as well as the years go by. Where can we find any of your products? Where can we find some of the social media that you guys do? share all that information with us.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So online, sweetleilani.com. We are in drug and grocery and health food stores in Canada, but we are available in the US. We do have a US warehouse that we ship from. We're at Sweet Leilani Cosmetics on Instagram, Sweet Leilani Cosmetics on Facebook. We have in-house artists. So if you want any product suggestions or you need to be shade matched for your special foundation, email us at support@sweetleilani.com and our in-house artist will shade match you and suggest products. We stand behind who we are and what we are, and if you have questions, email them in and we do respond.
That's good to know. That's good to know. Well, I will have all those links in the description below. Leilani, it was a pleasure having you on the podcast. Hopefully we can do it again soon.
Yeah, we'll deep